Good morning, Bananimators. Tracy Strong here, friendly neighborhood animation journalist. I'm editing, and I don't have an intro, so here's one now. So today, I'm just going to be looking at some of the practice drawings I was doing recently and talk a little bit about how we can think about the shapes that are behind it. So I'm basically just going to review what I've been practicing and see what I could have done to kind of bring things together. I feel like this has come a long way since even a year ago because I've been really pushing my shape language when I've been drawing in my free time. But I really want to get as good as some of the people that I work with that just see shapes so well and can really streamline things in such an efficient way. We also have some proportional issues like this guy. This one is sort of the hero guy. So we have this shape, we have the arms that go around the back. And I talked a little bit about this when I was practicing from the actual Kung Fu Panda drawings. This is kind of the next step. You take what you learn from your reference and then you try and do it on your own. And then you can take a little break away from it and see how you could have done better, see what you're doing good. So this I could have done straighter. Like it's got this curve here. But I have to think about what my line of action is. So if that's my line of action, then what can I do to make sure that everything is flowing together? And in that case, you know, this kind of has some question mark shape to it. I feel like the back could be straighter. There's a lot of design theory about having straights against curves and kind of complex against simple. So I feel like that one's not too bad. This one, we have some issues with proportions. So these arms are too big. And like, yeah, he's flexing. But you can see if we do a little just cylinder here and break his body up, or here, our cylinder is going that way, we should have 1/3 of the body is like shoulder area, and then 2/3 is body area. So what we can do is just bring this like that, and then we can bring that little triangle here that's straight in the back. And if he's sucking up to look really big, then we're going to be putting the emphasis on the top part of the circle. So there's a difference between this and this, right? The weight is towards the bottom, the weight is towards the top. So we want to push the weight up like this. And it isn't going to have that much ability because I'm keeping my forms a little bit rigid, but some cartoons can flip their whole proportions like that. I feel like this has to be a little bit more keg shaped. These little slippers on. The actual Kung Fu Panda does. I didn't give this guy any slippers. And if he's going like this, we're going to bring his head back because his head is actually coming from the back here. And then we can also, because we're doing this and we're pushing our poses, we can bring his head up and around backwards to continue that line and really push himself up. So now our arm can only come this way, down this much. Make sure that the line goes all the way through. So even though we're still pushing those big biceps here, we don't have the arms way too thick because we can't gain volume, right? Feels a little bit better. Let's see, this guy's cute, but we could bring the head way down. Like if he's really sad, keep his eyes up on the top part of his head here. Oh, we should put his little ears down too. Oop. So sad. The part of his coat that kind of goes around the back of the shoulder. So sad. Me. So down here, because this is a character I created, I asked my son actually, I'm like, okay, I've done a bunch of pandas. What should I do next? And he said to do a pig. So first I figured out kind of what a pig would look like and kind of the angles and stuff that I wanted to have. Then I drew sort of a default pig. So I was trying to think of shapes. So I had this sort of shape here, a little cutout that like that. And then we had these kind of triangular top half just to give a little bit of contrast. And then this part of the head and shoulders has this kind of squareness to it. So as opposed to Poe, who's these like roundy sort of bubbly shapes, I wanted him to be a little bit more angular. And trying to get that snout that wasn't like you can see like the snout and stuff is kind of all over the place. So I kind of had a little think in a few different places. Like I think this one is the most successful, where we have this kind of trapezoid shape that comes out into the snoot. So if I were to continue with these and clean them up, I would really want to work out the details of that face to make sure it's working well. So here, boop, I kind of brought like an angle to the front end, dude. But I was still really trying to keep this like simple shape of the pants. I didn't want to get any folds in there because I really wanted to keep it simple. And then you've got these triangles here that kind of give you the shoulder line. And then here, this I want to keep super duper like one big line. And I think my lines, you know, they're a little bit scruffy, but I think I found that. So I was like, you can see it's like a triangle here. Samurai Jack does an amazing job of this, of keeping things in these like beautiful angular lines. And here again, I wanted to keep that sort of triangle shape going all the way through. But I think the head would need to come back like this. We think back to this guy and make sure that we have our, like this front plate. Think of it almost like a plate on his head. That is really what's going to keep that head looking like this character, not another character. Oop. And then we want these triangles so we can draw through and see where these triangles belong. Oop. See here, things got a little bit mushy. I was not brave enough with that straight. So, and I made him too thin. Like this is a skinny pig. You want to really bring that leg over like that. And we can bring that leg forward, but with a little bit of a bend, because you never put your leg straight out like this, because if someone kicks you here, they will snap your leg. So you want to, if you do this sort of pose where your weight is shifted to the back foot, you want to make sure to have a little bend in the knee. Design wise, you don't, but if you're actually fighting, you don't want people to break your knee. This is okay, not great. Like the snoot is a little too long. And this pig, I gave him a little bit. He's got kind of an upper haunch that's bigger and then a smaller kind of tapered one. I wasn't very accurate about that. So that would be a good place to go in and really refine. We have small hands and then it tapers out into a short, like it looks like 50-50 here. So this part and this part 50-50, but it tapers at the bottom. So this is a square, this is a triangle. So like trapezoid triangle. This one we lost the shape of the bottom of the pants. So the pants should be wider like that. And then we got these little leg tapers. That's cool. You can't see that triangle here, but keeping that belly here and then finding that little triangle back here that I like, that's giving us a little bit more what we were expecting up here. And then thinking about how short those arms are. Really small hands, tiny little taper. I think we can simplify the face more too. That might be a fun study. Just do a bunch of animal heads. Maybe I'll do that. Make sure that this leg is wide enough. So this is short, but wide. So we want to really think about that when we're, so maybe if we come back here and we look at that, like the legs are actually too like long. Trying to keep the bottom of the pants sort of closer to that size. That's a good idea. So here we have a big scale issue. Boop. And then we can taper those little legs. Doot. That's a little better. So think about behind here, we have little tapered legs. So if they ever come out, I want to make sure we have that triangle shape. And here I was really trying to push those shapes. Doot, doot. I might have pushed a little too far there. Doot. Get that tapered. Really little wee hands. I think that is kind of fun. I almost ignored the ears going around. I think I kind of had guessed the ears, so that might be something I want to go back and forth. So that's my thought process for today. I did some Kung Fu Panda studies where I actually like looked at the character and just tried to draw what they had already and just kind of see where the big masses were and how they were moving those around. Then I did my own little panda study where I kind of stuck to the character's proportions and just kind of played around with it, saw how many different ways I could move it. And you can see I started very small so I could just kind of get the hang of it, and then it got bigger and more elaborate. I played with like actually thinking of how the character would work in bear form, like maybe he's in camouflage, he's in hiding. And then I created my own character playing with a similar proportion, but seeing how I could use more angular shapes and triangles instead of just copying the reference directly. Then I let it simmer for a little while. Then I came back to it and I said, okay, so when I was doing this, how successful was I at the things? Like, where am I losing accuracy and stuff? So proportions have always been something that I am able to like lose easily. So I'm just confirming with myself, like, yeah, you really have to be mindful of your proportions because it's not something that you do naturally. And that's fine. Nobody's good at everything. So knowing when it's something that you really have to be mindful of and keep and double check is actually really helpful, because you can just put a post-it note and stick it on your desk and it says proportion. So then after you've done your roughs or whatever, you're like, got to confirm those proportions before I move on to the next step. So knowing is good. So that's it. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you have any questions that you'd like me to address, I've been kind of in holiday mode lately, but I'm going to go through and like compilate any questions and make some answer videos for what you're struggling with. So please leave your questions down below. It would be super helpful for me. Like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do, and I will see you in the next video.